Hello, and welcome back to the 100 Acre Wool Knitting Podcast, where I talk about all the things I've been making recently, usually knitting, sewing, or fiber arts related. My name is Bella, coming to you from Los Angeles, California, and today I have a lot of knitting related things to talk to you about and show you. So let's get right into it. You can also find me on Instagram or Ravelry at 100 Acre Wool, and as always, links to everything that I talk about today will be in the description below, as well as timestamps if you're curious about one of my projects in particular. First, a little announcement and reminder: if you've been following the podcast, then you've probably heard about this, but if you're new, then I thought I would tell you about a KAL that we have going on. I am a big fan of Alice Starmore. She is a knitwear designer. And this year, I am hosting, along with two other podcasters, we're hosting a knit-along, a KAL, to create something from Alice Starmore's Tudor Roses knitting book. So that book is a bunch of knitting patterns all designed around the women in the Tudor era. So it's inspired by them, and it's just so many beautiful, gorgeous, inspired, just gorgeous designs. So this year I'm going to be making a few of those garments, and then the other podcasters that I'm hosting this with, that's Gabriella of the Merriweather Knitting Podcast, and then also Sophia of the Bouquet Creations Podcast. So they're also going to be making some garments from the Tudor Roses book, as well as I, and if you are curious about joining this KAL, I highly recommend you do so. It's going to be lasting all year long. And we have a new group on Ravelry for this podcast, which has a thread for this KAL in it. So if you're curious, make sure to check the link below and check that out. Join the KAL. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, and now to get into the knitting. I cast on a new project this week. I know I have so many things in the works already and so many things that are planned that I definitely have to do, that I planned for people. But I just saw this particular project and I couldn't resist. I just thought it was so gorgeous. So Taylor Owen is another knitting podcaster on YouTube. If you haven't seen her podcast, go check her out. She makes beautiful, beautiful things, and her podcast is really fun to watch. So go check her out if you're not aware of her. But she has also been getting into knitwear or creating knitting patterns recently. She's been creating knitting patterns of her own designs, and she is coming out with her first, I think it's her first, actual garment pattern. So a couple of weeks ago, she talked about it on her podcast and was kind of showing us her progress making it. And I just thought it was so, so beautiful. If you've been following this podcast for any amount of time, you probably know that I love cables, like cable knitting. And so this cardigan that Taylor is designing has a bunch of cables in it, and it's just so, so beautiful in my opinion. I just fell in love with it right when she showed it on her podcast. So I emailed her right away and asked if I could be a test knitter for that project, because she was looking for test knitters for all the different sizes that she's creating the pattern in. So I am so happy. I'm test knitting the garment for her. So I ordered all of the yarn. She used Harrisville Designs yarn. I think she used the base I think she used was Watershed, but I wanted to do a different base, still Harrisville Designs, but a different base because I wanted a different color than was available in that base. But it's still a really nice base. So let me show you what my test knit is looking like so far. This is what it looks like. It's very short so far. This is like the width of the garment, but I've only been working on this for a week, among other things, so it's kind of short so far. But I really love how it's knitting up. This uses worsted weight yarn, so it's a pretty quick knit. I wasn't working on this for too long. I think I only spent like not even a full day on it, and I got this far. Yeah, definitely not a full day. But I wanted to block it out for you guys so that you could see all of the details, because when it was on the needles and I was, knitting away at it, you know how the ribbing at the bottom, it doesn't normally look like this. It was all, scrunched up and squishy. So I wanted to block it out to actually show you guys today what it actually is going to look like. So I did that, and I really love it. I also needed to test my gauge. I had done a little bit of a gauge swatch, but not really, because I figured it would be fine. I wasn't going to be too upset if this was a little bit tighter or a little bit bigger than, you know, expected. But I did get gauge on this, on the actual garment. So that's really good. So let me show you guys how the back is looking. And this is my favorite part. This was the part that really, you know, struck me and stood out to me. This is what it looks like on the back here. Just all of these beautiful cables. And I'm only at the beginning of the pattern here, so it's gonna, you know, it keeps going up all the way up the center back, all the way up. Oh, this is called the Owen cardigan, by the way. Taylor Owen also has a little bralette design with the Owen cardigan, or sorry, with the Owen design, the cable design on the bralette, and she kind of, you know, used the same, not the same Owen, but you know, they kind of go together is what I'm trying to say. It's the same general cable design. So I thought that that was really cool that she kind of is blending her work and making it, you know, work together. I think that that's really cool. So to make this garment, I ordered the Harrisville Designs Highland base. So these are a couple more of my skeins. I think I have a couple more in the back because this sweater is gonna be a really nice and smushy, cozy, you know, scrunchy sweater. It's got a lot of yarn in it, which I'm really, really excited about. So this is the colorway Walnut. I thought it would be a really nice, I don't actually have any brown cardigans. I don't usually wear a lot of brown, but I really love when I see people with brown cardigans and, you know, like neutral kind of colors. So I thought that this would be the perfect project for that because it could be, you know, kind of a use it in everything kind of a cardigan, like, you know, around the house, going out, everything. I really want it to be something that I would use a lot. And so I think that this yarn specifically for this pattern, that it's a workhorse yarn, I thought it would fit perfectly. So using a neutral color I thought would also work. So yeah, this is the walnut colorway, and I really love this brown. It's kind of a cooler toned brown. I'm not sure if it's gonna come up exactly, the color is exactly on the camera correctly, but it's kind of a cooler toned brown. But it also has some flecks of yellow and gray all throughout it, so I think it's really beautiful. And I'm not exactly sure what type of wool this is. It's definitely a very rustic yarn, but I'm not sure what the actual wool content is. I mean, it's 100% wool, but like what kind of wool, if it's Shetland wool or what, I'm not sure. But it's feeling really nice in the garment. And when I got it in the mail, to be honest, I was kind of scared. I mean, not scared, but I was kind of nervous with how the wool was feeling because it feels kind of crunchy in a way in the skein, you know, right when you get it. And then I was reading the label, and they actually talk about, you know, Harrisville Designs, they actually talk about, you know, don't be afraid of the crunchiness of this wool. It will soften up with use and with blocking and all. And I can definitely attest to that statement is true, because even just with this one blocking that I've done, you know, using my regular wool soap and, you know, wet blocking it, it definitely has softened up a lot. So I think it's going to get even better with, you know, wash and wear over time. So I'm just really, really excited about this garment. So I'll explain a little bit about how this is constructed. It's being worked in the round right now, but obviously you can't have a cardigan that's a tube, then that would be a sweater. So how Taylor designed it is you work in the round so that you never have to purl, which I so appreciate. Well, you only have to purl in the cables, obviously. If you were working in the flat, you would have to purl all of the, you know, stockinette areas as well, which isn't my favorite because for the style of knitting that I do, purling takes me a little bit longer than knitting, like the knit stitch. So I'm very happy that Taylor wrote it this way, that you work it in the round and then it has a steek. So that is what this kind of center panel is here. But it's just, you know, simple stockinette pattern right here. And she didn't include it in the ribbing section, probably because it's not necessary. And then, so yeah, how it's going to be going is that I'm going to work all the way up with this kind of flap in the middle. And then you know, slice it up the middle. So you'll tack down the edges and then steek it open, and then she also has you finish it with a ribbed kind of a border around the edges. You can see in the picture, I'll put the picture here so you can see what I'm talking about. But on the edges, it'll have a button band, and that'll be ribbed, and then sew that to the steeked edge, so it'll be nice and hidden. So I think that's a really nice way to finish it off. I think it's really beautiful that she did it that way. So yeah, this has just been really, really fun to knit. Really, pretty simple. Her chart in the pattern is very clear, in my opinion. She hasn't laid out row by row. Maybe she'll do that, I'm not sure, but maybe I'll suggest to her, maybe she could write it out row by row for the people who don't like following charts or don't know how to. That might be helpful. But as far as charts go, it's very clear, in my opinion. So yeah, I really like how this is working up, and I will definitely get a lot more work on this done this week. I literally just got the yarn for this a couple of days ago, and I cast it on right away because I really want to get this done as soon as possible for her, since it is a test knit. The next project update that I have for you guys is for my mom's sweater. I did a lot of work on this week. So hopefully you can see it's gotten a lot bigger. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna fall over. Trying to get this all in frame. Hopefully you can kind of get the gist of what it's looking like. So basically what happened this week was I got all the way down to where the waist is, where the smallest part of the waist, and I am increasing now for the hips. So for the people who don't know this pattern, for the people who have not been following along with the podcast and this is new to them, this is not a knitting pattern. This is actually a pattern that I am writing myself, and which will be available for purchase at some point by you guys. I'm writing and designing this pattern all from scratch. Basically the backstory was my mom saw an image online of a sweater kind of similar to this, and she really wanted a sweater like that, and she knew I was a knitter, so she wanted me to make it for her. So I started designing a sweater for her, and I just loved how it was coming along, and you guys loved it too. I've gotten so many comments about, how much you guys love this sweater and how beautiful it is and how you want to knit it. So I thought, why not make a pattern and make it available to everyone? So yeah, I'm working on the pattern as I work this sweater, basically writing down what I'm doing as I'm knitting it. And then I will grade it, write it up, and then grade it and get test knitters and make it available at some point. I'm not sure how long it's going to take, because this sweater isn't even done yet, and then there'll be a lot of editing and writing that has to be done after that. So anyways, yeah, I'm really, really liking how it's coming out. I've been trying it on, and it still fits really wonderfully, exactly how I want it to fit. My mom is a little bit bigger than I am, a tiny bit bigger, so I'm sizing this up a little bit for her, but it fits both of us pretty similarly, so I like how it's coming out. So yes, like I said, I finished doing the decreases to get to the waist. Let me see if I can hold this up better. I was decreasing to the waist from the arm hole, from the arm opening, and so now I'm at the waist, and then I've actually started on the bottom cables, which I talked about last time as well. So I'm designing some cables that will be kind of similar to the top cables here, but a little bit of a different design, and they're going to be kind of gradually increasing as you work down, because since we went in for the waist and then we're going to be increasing for the bottom out towards the hips, the cables are kind of going to be going with that shape, if that makes sense. I don't want to give away exactly how it's going to be. That'll be a surprise, which I'll show you guys when I have this finished, but I'm really excited, and I finished the chart for it this week. I finished designing it and, actually writing how it's going to look, the chart for how to knit the bottom cables here. It's not as simple as the top here. They'll tie each other together. It'll tie into the top. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, so that was really, really fun to make. Kind of a challenge. trying to work in increases and cables. That's, you know, they don't really go together usually, but I definitely wanted the shaping that, you know, decreasing and increasing would give you on the torso area, you know. So I really like how it's working out. And also, I forgot to say, this is a raglan, so I'm working it top down. Hopefully you can tell. So it's a turtleneck at the top, and then I worked down and increased with some cables, increased on either side of these cables here. And then I split for the arms on either side. So now we have an armhole on either side. And then joined in the round again to work the body. So that's what I'm doing right now. And then I'm thinking this week I'll also get into the sleeves to make sure I like how those are coming along. I haven't decided how I want to shape the arms yet, but I'll probably get into that this week and then show you guys how that's coming along next week. And then I'm also really loving how it feels. It's seriously like probably the coziest, comfiest sweater I've ever tried on. It uses alpaca and mohair yarn, so I'm holding 2 strands together as I work. Hopefully you can see here. So this is a strand of mohair and then also a strand of alpaca. I think together they make probably a sport weight yarn, so there's a lot of stitches in this. It's a pretty, you know, fine gauge. But yeah, it's really cozy and fluffy, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to see the halo on this. I'll probably try to get some images of the halo. It's just so nice. so fluffy. So I really like the yarn, how the yarn is working up in this pattern. I think it's a perfect pair. And they're both from Drops. Both of the yarns that I'm using, the mohair and the alpaca, it's Drops Alpaca and Drops Kid Silk, which this is my first time working with both of those yarns, and I really like them. I'm definitely going to use them in the future because they have so many colors in each, you know, in the alpaca and the mohair. There's so many color choices, and they're just so soft and great quality. I mean, the alpaca is 100% alpaca, and, you know, it's kid silk mohair, so it's, you know, the goat and the silk, and they just, great quality yarn. I really love the Drops yarn. So I think that's all I'll say about this one this week, and let me get into the next project. The next project update I have to share with you guys is my Yell cardigan by Marie Wallin, and this is what it's looking like. So I showed you guys this last week. I actually haven't made any knitting progress on this, but I showed you guys last week how it was very flippy, and I was kind of concerned with how it was, you know, really twisty and kind of flipping on itself. It wasn't wanting to lay flat. So this week, after a lot of lovely comments from people last week telling me that I should probably try blocking it and see if that will fix the issue of the hem kind of flipping up on itself. So that's what I did this week. Just wet blocked it out, and it looks like it fixed it. It's very flat, at least right now. I'm not sure if when I actually start wearing the garment, if maybe the heat or what, I'm not sure if it will, you know, kind of undo the blocking and kind of start flipping up again. So maybe down the road I'll have to try to employ a different, you know, kind of method of getting this to lay flat. But for now, it seems like it's going to work. So I'm really happy about that. So now you can actually see all of the color work in its glory, in its beautifulness. Oh my goodness, I love how it's coming out. But one thing I will say is a couple of weeks ago when I was first starting on this project, first actually getting into knitting it, not doing the swatch, I realized that it was very big. It's supposed to be a oversized garment, but I didn't realize how oversized it actually was going to be. So I am making the small medium size in the pattern, and the size for that, I don't remember the exact width, but this is actually a couple inches wider than it's supposed to be, but I don't want to start over. I think that's fine. Like, it's supposed to be oversized anyways, and I'm not gonna be mad if it's too wide, I don't think. I think it'll be beautiful either way. So I figured it out when I was blocking this, how much wider it actually was going to be. When you measure it when you're knitting, it's not as wide as when it actually is blocked. I mean, I should have known that. Obviously, yarn stretches when it's blocked. Depending on the yarn, it usually stretches when it's blocked. But yeah, so this one stretched a couple of inches. But I'm okay with it. I really think it's going to be beautiful either way. So I still have a lot of color work for the bottom section to do, a lot of color changes and stuff. So I'm probably going to get work on that done this week. And yeah, I think that's all the update I have for this week, for this one, because I didn't actually get any knitting done. Actually, I think I got a row done. But anyways, so I'll update you guys more on this on next week's episode. So the next project I have to talk to you guys about is actually showing you my plans for a project. So I talked about at the beginning of this episode how I'm co-hosting the Tudor Roses KAL, and this year I am planning on making 2 garments from the Tudor Roses book. The first one is Jane Seymour, and the second, Anne Boleyn. Those are the 2 that just stood out to me most. I think all of the patterns in that book are just so gorgeous, but Jane Seymour and Anne Boleyn just stood out to me the most. So I definitely wanted to make those this year or, very, very soon. So the first project that I'm going to be working on for that is Anne Boleyn. And I talked about these projects in my Make 9 plans for 2021. And I also said in that episode that I was going to be making the Alice Starmore garments probably later in the year, just so I could get some more, knitting color work experience under my belt before I go into those really intricate, detailed projects. But I have a little news to share with you guys. So this past week, Gabriella from the Tudor Roses KAL, she's one of the other co-hosts that I mentioned earlier, she actually reached out to Virtual Yarns, and they want to collaborate with us on this KAL. I was just so blown away and excited. So they're going to be collaborating with us, which I'll share the details of what that means in a later episode. But yeah, so I am planning my Anne Boleyn right now. And I'm actually going to be using different colors than the original garment. I love the original garment. I think it's absolutely beautiful. But I wanted to see what it would look like in something else. And I also think that those colors wouldn't necessarily go with a lot of things in my wardrobe. It would definitely be beautiful in my wardrobe, but I really wanted this to be something that I could wear a lot, since it is going to be such an involved project. I think I was looking at the Tudor Roses book for, this particular pattern, Anne Boleyn, and it's something like 11 pages of detailed information on, how to knit the garment, like detailed instructions and, row by row and telling you what to do. So it's going to be quite an involved process. And also from what I've heard from other knitters who have made this garment, the Anne Boleyn sweater, it's very involved, and it involves a lot of, quite complicated techniques. I think it involves cables and bobbles and intarsia, maybe. So it's a lot. Basically, I really want to make sure that I can wear this a lot to get good use out of it, and I also want to make sure that I really love my color choices. So this week, I have been working a lot on planning out my colors. You guys probably know that I really like to plan my color work, or any project, I really like to plan it before I start knitting it. So that's what I've been doing this week, trying to figure out my color combinations. And I spent so much time. I've already spent so much time, just like my yell, that I spent so much time planning beforehand, before even getting the yarn and making the whole thing. So I thought I would share with you guys a couple of my ideas, a couple of the ideas that I've been playing around with for color choices for this project. So I'm going to be using Alice Starmore's Hebridean 2-ply yarn for this project, which is the yarn that's originally used in the pattern. So what I've been doing is basically doing screenshots of all of the different colors that she has available. I think she has maybe 40 or 30, like high 30s, a lot of colors she has available in the 2-ply base. So I basically have been taking screenshots and picking the color out of it, like I showed you guys in my planning color work tutorial episode. I've been picking the colors out of it and basically drawing my own little mock-ups of what the sweater would look like in different color combinations. So the first idea that I was playing with was I really loved the dark background that the original cardigan uses. So I thought that these colors could go really well together. I really love blue, and especially, kind of a deep navy. So I started playing around with that. And then as the contrast colors, as the kind of bobble lines coming down, I started playing with some warmer tones, and I was really liking how this was coming out. Also, something about it looked kind of, I don't know, you know, like a bowler outfit, like someone who goes bowling, which isn't, you know, necessarily a bad look, but it's not really my style, at least not something that I would want to wear all of the time. Then the next idea that I had was I thought I would change out the blue for more of a neutral tone, more of a brown, kind of to keep all of the contrast colors more neutral toned, and I thought that that might work well to make it more wearable, you know, more often. But I was still getting that kind of bowler vibe, and it wasn't feeling quite right. So then I thought, why don't we try a lighter background, see how that would look, that could be beautiful. So then I was scouring the Virtual Yarns Instagram page and looking at all of their different color combinations. They have so many beautiful photos on there of their yarns and their patterns. So I was looking on there for inspiration, and I saw this hat, the mountain hare hat, and I just loved the colors together. With the kind of the Pebble Beach background and all of the pops of color on it. I just thought it was such a beautiful combination, so I thought I would try those colors in this design. So I mocked that up here, and I really loved it at first. I thought it was beautiful, but then also I thought that the contrast colors might be too contrasty, too intense in this design. I think in the hat they're really beautiful because there's such a little amount of the contrast colors. It really, you know, makes the hat sparkle, but it's not too overwhelming with the brighter colors. So then I dug a little bit deeper for this idea, and I changed up the colors a little bit to make them kind of, you know, more toned down a bit. And I think I have settled on this design, this kind of color combination. So yeah, this was another photo that I saw on the Virtual Yarns Instagram, and I just thought, oh my goodness, those colors go so well together, those yarns. So mocked up the colors here, and I think this is what I'm going to go with. It's really my style, and I think it would go with so many things in my wardrobe. Lighter clothes, darker clothes, everything. I think it would be something that I could get a lot of use out of. And I already have a lot of these colors in my wardrobe already, so it would definitely go with those. So between these 4 ideas, if you guys have a favorite, let me know. I'd be curious to know what, you know, kind of the popular opinion is on this. But yeah, I just thought I would share with you guys my kind of mock-up process for this. And this has taken me so long, but it was really, really fun to do. So that was everything that I had to share with you guys this week. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did enjoy and you want to see more content like this from me in the future, please make sure to like and subscribe so that you never miss any of my other videos. And thanks again for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Bye bye.